Hello, mi gente. This is Angel Aviles with Living Firme, bringing you another episode of 30 Inspiring Women. Today we have two incredible women. These women are true chingonas who saw a problem in their community and decided to make a difference on their own. They are Valeria Hernandez and Jovanna Lopez, the founders of the People's Night Market in San Antonio. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Doing good?
Hi, doing really good.
Oh, excellent. I usually do a bio and talk about, your accolades and your celebratory events in life. But right now, I'm going to do the reverse. And I'm going to start by talking about where you are with the night market and how that came about.
Let's see where we are with the night. We actually have a market tonight, and we're sitting in the middle on my couch is full of vegetables and fruit. Oh my. So right now we're in our off season, but we're doing pop-ups around the city to fulfill the small grant that we got over the winter that we're supposed to be popping up in food deserts, which is something that we do regularly in our regular season, which is in the fall, because we have a permanent home on the west side of San Antonio, which is more like east side of LA. So, it's definitely a food desert.
It's a great segue to start talking about food deserts. Can you just really quickly give us a definition of a food desert?
A food desert is typically a neighborhood that does not have healthy options. A lot of times it's like areas with fried chicken joints, even taco spots, fast food for the most part.
And there isn't a grocery store or a produce area within
Is it a mile?
It's a mile radius.
So it's pretty likely, it's pretty safe to say that every state in the United States has a number of food deserts within, especially its urban areas, but I'm guessing even some of its rural areas.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
And one of the things that, for me, I like to differentiate because people are like food deserts. Like Jovanna just said, there's, taquerias and fast food places and convenience stores. And people are like, well, there's food everywhere. What do you mean you're in a food desert? So for me specifically, I actually like to call these places nutrition deserts because you're really lacking nutrition. And you see people that look like they have some weight on them and you're like, these aren't starving people. But when you put them into, these tests, they're actually very undernourished as if they were from third world countries.
Mm-hmm. I think that that's a really, really interesting statement, is that we are definitely, as a community, not eating the way our abuelitas ate. So we may enjoy the idea of it, but abuelita wasn't eating fast food tacos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember growing up, and Val and I, it's funny, we always compare our abuelitas because they're very similar. But I just remember we had a lot of frijoles and cactus, a lot of nopales. We didn't eat a lot of meat, and if we did, it was a shared thing, like in some soup or like arroz con pollo. Like it was never like these huge portions of meat. So I always say that they were kind of vegetarian, they lived to be 97.
Just off of what Jovanna was saying, you get a piece of chicken, to yourself. Like you drive through a fast food place, you'll get like a 2-piece chicken with two sides or whatever. 2 pieces of chicken in a household that, maybe has a lower income will take 2-3 pieces of chicken and you shred it up in some rice. And then you feed more people instead of just, one sitting, one person that's not prepared is healthy either.
So I can see that you ladies have a passion for food, for health, for nutrition, and for community. Tell me a little bit about how the night market got started.
Well, Jovanna and I had been living in LA for about 17 years, and I moved back to my hometown here in San Antonio. And Jovanna was working for Jesse at the time,
helping them get little shows, I guess lowrider stuff.
Yeah, here around town. And so we actually met through Jesse. And we were one day talking and commiserating about just the different variety of offerings in bigger cities like LA and New York, which is where Jovanna had been for about 8 years before coming back here to San Antonio, which is her hometown too. And
coming back to San Antonio from New York, you get used to certain things and walking and food, and I came back to a very different place that I had not been used to anymore. And so I put my work into starting to do community work in the neighborhood, and I started a little mini version of what we have today, except it was during the day, and it was just in my neighborhood, and everybody would come and pick up produce and food, and that's how I started it.
And at the same time, I was doing cooking demos around the neighborhood with either, if it was a community church or if it was neighborhood association meetings, I would come and demonstrate how you could take traditional home-cooked meals that would have meat or lard or those MSG cubes, that consumate that we like to throw in our rice and stuff, which is really high sodium, and it's things that we were used to using in our food. And so because I was diagnosed with lupus like 20 years ago, I had to change a lot of what I grew up with eating really fast. And in the last 20 years, I've done a lot of research and, things as to how to trade out the stuff that we're used to eating with better things, but it's still recognizable to our palates, to our eyes, to our culture, which makes it relevant for people to want to eat. So I was doing these demos within the community, and Jovanna had her little market, and so she was like, hey, you want to come do a cooking demo? And it was like at 9 in the morning. I was like, I'm like, this is too early. I was like, no.
On a Sunday.
On a Sunday, I was like, oh, hell no. And so, and at that time I had just gotten on the arts commission for the city, and we were looking at different places at that time, and Jovanna texted me one morning. She was like, hey, do you think you can get this venue, La Villita, that's here in San Antonio? I was like, all we can do is ask. And it just kind of, it went from there, and we got we met the proper people that we needed, and we negotiated a space in downtown San Antonio, La Villita, and that's where we had our inaugural market in 2015, the fall of 2015, and we opened there. And we stayed there a couple of seasons, and we realized that our mission statement was really to fulfill the issues with food and nutrition in the communities. That was something that was very dear to our hearts. And we just didn't feel we were really targeting what we wanted to in the downtown touristy area of San Antonio. So then, just again, knowing people within the community that are trying to do good things, we approached Avenida Guadalupe, which is an area of town that, that really helps people in underserved communities and marginalized communities with drug issues, education issues, housing issues, food issues, you name it. And so they like the idea, and we've been there for the last couple of seasons already, and we've created an impact that we're extremely proud of now.
Can you just repeat what you said about your diagnosis?
Yes, I was diagnosed with lupus like over 20 years ago, in my 20s. And, sometimes when I think back at it and I trace it back and I think about how I grew up in a 2-bedroom house with like 9 people, lead paint, bad nutrition. And when I think about why these diseases happen and how it happened to me, it's just like I really feel like it was an environmental thing. Even, environmentally, how we grow up stressed out as children in our communities a lot of times between, our families being divorced or poor and having to work 3 jobs or whatever the situation. But we all have those stories in our community that I think affects us in ways that we don't even realize. And so being diagnosed with lupus was, in a weird way, almost a gift that opened me up to a lot of searching.
So it was illness that motivated Valeria. Jovanna, what motivated you to be involved in food sustainability and growth and community involvement?
I think it was my year with AmeriCorps. I did a year. The whole reason I was in New York in the beginning was because of AmeriCorps. I did a branch called City Year, and so you work in New York City public schools and you do literacy and like after school programs. We also did like a lunch program where we worked with the kids as well. And so, I think I got influenced by a lot of different people there, when it came to health, we talked to the kids about how much sugar was in soda, what they were eating when they'd get a bag of chips after school. Cause that's the norm there too. We think that that's just, in San Antonio at least, like that's our thing. We go get a snack after school and it's a soda and chips. But in New York too, that's what the kids, that's their sustenance until their parents get home from work sometimes. A lot of the kids, I would talk to them like, oh, I just get chips or whatever will hold them over until their parents get home. So that kind of opened my eyes to start changing the way I was eating, because I have always had a weight problem. I grew up on a lot of fast food. After I kind of was not hanging out at my grandparents all the time, I got older and became a teenager. You know, my mom was a working mom. So the easiest thing for her to do was get us McDonald's or take us to get something real quick, and it was usually fried. So I started that kind of eating, and, you know, it just took me on an up and down roller coaster, which I still deal with today, but I know that today I'm eating way better than I did, 15 years ago. Yeah, I would say that working in AmeriCorps really helped me start to see, like, the whole sustainability aspect,
Yes, I do know. And having had the total pleasure and privilege of visiting you all in San Antonio and visiting the night market, being a part of that night market experience, I just love how you all, first of all, decided to do a night market because it was accessible. Obviously, Valeria wasn't having it during the day, but the night market opens itself up to people who work. And let's face it, you don't always have the luxury of going from your job to the market, in the middle of the day when you feel like it. You sometimes have to work and then catch the bus and then make it to somewhere close to your neighborhood, which is great. So you all opening it up to a population that definitely needs it to be that way, but you also made it so much fun. Let's talk a little bit about the kinds of vendors that started to show up, because it's not just fruits and vegetables, even though that's the star of the show. You also have some incredible other stars.
Yeah, I think one of the stories we like to talk to people about when it comes to the market is the Ethiopian food truck. They didn't have a food truck when they started with us.
We've been able to incubate a few businesses and give people the chance to just set up and say, hey, because this economy, a lot of times people are really stressed out about finding jobs, losing jobs. And if you empower people to say, hey, I have this little talent at home that I make these things, or I have this passion to create, gluten-free goods and I don't know where to start or put them out. Our market really gives an opportunity to be able to do that for people, to test their wares and their talents, in a safe place and to see what it would take, for them to start their little businesses. But we're really proud of that. And, and our experiences in New York and LA, that bringing diversity to our market was really important. So she was saying the Ethiopian vendor, I was there and this woman was talking to the vendor, the Ethiopian guy, and she was saying, my friend just adopted 2 children from Ethiopia, and she's been having she has to go all the way to Austin to get them, food that they relate to, and I have to tell her that you guys are here at this market selling Ethiopian food so she can bring her kids to enjoy food that they know. And that just made us feel really good.
Another vendor that we love, I'm sorry, I was thinking about this, is Maddie. Maddie does these little bears. She's our youngest entrepreneur. Was she like 7?
Yeah.
So, and she's hilarious because she makes these little bears out of pipe cleaners. And she will work the market. Like Jesse works the market, but Maddie really works the market. She will walk throughout the entire market and show people her bears. And that's how she makes her sales most of the time.
And she started her little business because she has a brother that's high spectrum autistic, and he has a therapy dog that needs food and all the things that animals need to sustain, to exist there in a household, and it's extra money that they don't have, so she sells her bears in order to make money for her brother's therapy dog.
I'm getting verklempt.
Yes, it's such a beautiful story, and to be able to not only incubate businesses, but to incubate heart and soul businesses, is really, really something special. So, okay, did you guys just wing this as you went along? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Let's see. Well, my background is acting, and and I went out to LA years and years ago to do that grind. But in that grind, you learn a lot, which I'm sure you know. And when you realize that when you're in productions, and people are producing these things, that there's so many different elements that are all business. And I was able to really learn a lot from just trying that grind. And then when I came back to San Antonio, like I said, I got onto the Arts Commission here, and I was able to learn a lot and diversify a lot of my learning as far as what business goes, and especially community business, and what social businesses mean and what they do within a community without necessarily having to be a 501c3. But basically, it's just a hustle. We're smart.
Yeah, that's for sure. I guess for me, we're both essentially hustlers. We will work and do what we got to do to make it happen. But I would say that my time in AmeriCorps and then my education that I got and my experience in New York, I learned how to hold 3 jobs and pay for college just to survive there. You either sink or swim there. And so I think that my entire experience there, no matter what I was doing, I had to really learn how to budget my money. And I also worked for so many people with businesses that were like startups. I worked for this one organization or company called Waffles and Dingus, and they started from one food truck to like an empire. They're like in Central Park now. They've got a standalone store. So I've just had so many different people that I've learned all the stuff that I think we use now.
Yeah, and also I know we both have our back stories, and the beginning of mine is that I left at 15, so you don't learn to hustle, but on your own by then and still survive. You pick up things, you learn things.
Yeah, totally. And when she brings that up, and it's funny, like I almost tried to forget why I had to learn to be as efficient as I've become. But my mother passed at 19, and so there was not a lot of family support. My father was still in prison. So at 19, I was kind of just thrown out into the world, and I didn't do well the first few years. But like I said, I think it was a blessing in disguise when I ended up in New York, because that just taught me how to be who I am today. I forget sometimes my worth, but I'm really proud of myself for who I've become and what I've done with my life, because I think there were a lot of people that were rooting against me, and now I'm just like, yeah, I did this. Like, I'm good.
Well, I know that I'm really proud of both of you. I love the work that you do. I knew you guys didn't have your MBAs from Harvard. I knew you guys were, on the grind. You learn from the School of Hard Knocks, and I love that, because I think a lot of times we think that we can't be effective members of our community, or we can't be successful business owners, or we can't help other people because we don't have the paper. But I have seen what you guys have done, and it's funny, I'm in LA and I'm like reading your press. I just want to brag about these ladies. They be all in the news, and they be all on TV, and it's because you all are about your hustle, and you all are about your passion, and you are really, really living and embodying that passion. So if you had any advice to give to anyone out there who wanted to start something similar, they live in a food desert, they're in a community that, that does not have access to some of the changes that they would like to make, how would you suggest they implement some basic changes to start their own market?
I guess for me, I would say that, just do it. Just try it. You never know. Like, you're going to fail. I know that there have been times when we're like, dang, like that didn't work out. But just try it first and start small. Like, I know when I started to do this, there was a friend I had that would do veggie drops. And that would just entail getting a farmer and selling produce out of the back of the truck, but you get pre-orders. So that's, I think, how I started. So I would say start small and don't give up. Just keep trying different things, Like, I think we could have given up after a few of the incidents that we had happen, and we just said, oh, whatever, we're going to keep going.
I like to call Jovanna Miss Grovana, because I want her to start an article where people can say, Miss Grovana, I'm having problems with my garden. So I'm surprised that Miss Grovana didn't say start growing stuff in little pots, because that's what, I love having my little arugula crate that I grow my 2 little arugula plants that I'll, clip and everything. But yes, Miss Grovana has her home garden. I think that's a good way to start.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, she's right. Because I'm horrible at interviews. If you look at our video, I'm like, have my hands in my pocket and I'm moving. I am not a trained actress.
As we like to say, because I show people how to eat and she grows the veggies, that she's the grower and I'm the shower. If you got to keep a sense of humor.
Yes, you have to keep a sense of humor, and that's also why I wanted to interview you all together. You are both chingonas. Like, apart, you're like seriously like whip it together, and you can put a show together. We did an event together in San Antonio, and that could have easily gone wrong on so many levels. We did way too much in way too short a time, but you guys are seriously amazing. And alone, you guys each have your strengths, and you work off of one another's strengths. There's always a spirit of love and fun, and also you can definitely feel like that hustle's on. You can feel what the fire that's burning the entire event. So when people want to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you? How can they find out about you as individuals and also you as the market?
Well, the market, first of all, is at 1314 Guadalupe Street in San Antonio. I think we might do the pop-up that we're doing today. It might become a permanent thing, maybe. I don't know. It's kind of a pilot. And that's second Saturdays at the 1906 Gallery at 1906 South Flores. But if you want to contact us via social media, phone, email, we are under the People's Nite Market, Nite, on Facebook. On Twitter, we're under @NitePeople. Instagram is Nite People also, I think. And then the email is peoplesnitemarket@gmail, and it's Nite as well. We always emphasize that because people think it's the night. But yeah, you can contact us on there for any questions, and usually one of us will get back to you.
Yes, and individually, for me, because I do put recipes, and I'm going to start a blog under Soy Loca. You can find me at Facebook under Soy Loca.
Yo también soy loca.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for giving me your time and sharing your experience and also your joy. I love you guys, and
love you too.
Again soon.
Yes, and thank you.
Thank you.